Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I am your host, Attorney Henry Gornbein. Today on Gracefully Graying, I am pleased to welcome as our guest Bloomfield Township Community Relations Public Information Officer Nick Soley as we discuss some of the important scams that are being perpetrated against seniors in our community. And what's interesting, Nick, I just learned that we're one of the oldest communities in Oakland County, that the demographics that more than 50% of our population is 50 and over. So this is really an important issue. So without further ado, let me welcome Officer Nick Soley. First of all, Officer Soley, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and your background with the Bloomfield Township Police Department?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here. So my name is Officer Nick Soley. I am the Bloomfield Township Police Department Community Relations, Crime Prevention, Public Information Officer, quite a handful. But really what that means is I am specialized in crime prevention through a few different national programs. And then I take that out to the community, give them tips and trades. And then the public information part comes as really just delivering the chief and the department's vision and what's going on there out to the community and keeping them informed. I've been in this role for about the last 4 years, with Bloomfield Township the last 9 years, and in law enforcement a total of 12. So senior scams and scams in general and our elderly population, something we definitely are keeping an eye on, and never ending new trends and new scams out there. So happy to talk about it.
You know what's scary, officer, is the fact that every day I think I've become more and more paranoid because I've been the victim of identity theft myself. I've had scams that have been perpetrated on my computer, on my phone, and like every day there are emails that are suspicious that I get. There are phone calls that are suspicious. So we live it's like social media is a two-edged sword. It's very helpful, but it's also very dangerous. So tell us about some of the major scams that are being perpetrated against seniors in our area.
Yeah, well, that's technology in general, right? The more technology advances, the more tools, I guess, the bad guys have to use against us, which is scary. Some of the major scams, and I talked to our detective bureau this morning in our meeting and said, what do you want me to relay? What are you guys seeing? What's important right now? And we'll get into the social media part of it. But outside of the social media, what we're really seeing right now are the continued phone calls to our elderly. And those phone calls can range for a number of different reasons, but they are typically spoofed, meaning the numbers show up as a different number. And there is some sort of action they want you to take. So when we talk about scams and I talk about the trends and how everything continues to evolve and new scams popping up each day, what we are able to look at and condense it down to is really the MO and how these are happening, right? What are the basics behind it? And then we can give examples for a number of different ones. And what we see most often are someone will contact you. There's a scare tactic. There's a solution to the problem of that scare tactic, and it needs to be done quickly and quietly. So the scare tactic may be someone calling you pretending to be the police department, saying you have a warrant for your arrest because you missed jury duty, and that's the scare tactic. There's a warrant for your arrest. We can solve this today, the solution. If you go to this convenience store and buy $500 worth of gift cards, call me back and give them to me. You're not going to want to tell anyone about this. It's pretty embarrassing, yada, yada, yada. And there's the keep it quiet and do it quick. If you don't do this quick, we'll send deputies to your house, things like that. And you can insert and plug and play a lot of different scenarios there. One of the more common ones we're seeing now is the calling of the elderly. Hey, grandma. Hey, grandpa. Nick, is that you? Now they've got a name. Yep, it's me. It's Nick. Hey, grandpa, I made a mistake. I had a little too much to drink last night. I was driving. Now I'm in jail. Please don't tell my parents. I need you to bail me out. It's $500. Hold on. The officer wants to talk to you. And they'll switch it over to a role actor number 2 or change their voice. And then again, we get into the scare tactic of, they're going to be locked up here, the criminal trials. We need you to go do this. Do it now. Don't tell anybody and send them to me. So really, we see a lot of those going on right now, and it is scary when they can spoof the numbers and show that maybe it is coming from a 248-433 number that looks like a police department or our real number. So that's kind of some of the major scams we're seeing now. And then farming, and that'll get us into social media, but pulling information off of social media. So when they do call you, they've got some of that information. They might already have grandkids' names or different bits of information to come at you with.
What about issues involving home invasion? I know there were gangs that were really preying in this whole area not too long ago. Tell us a little more about that issue.
Yep. So for about the past year now, a little bit less, we've seen what we call transnational gangs, also known more commonly now as the South American Theft Group. These groups have come in and devastated, I want to say Oakland County, but they've moved into Wayne County a little bit, pretty much all over Michigan at this point. And these groups, got some notoriety, and there's been a lot of talk on the news about them. But what they do is they come in from a South American country. They are a ring of 3, 4, 5, 6 different guys in a crew, mostly from Chile, and they're targeting high-end, high-valued homes, millions and millions of dollar homes, and targeting for big ticket items such as high-end jewelry, high-end designer bags. You name it, really ransacking. What we see most often is that master bedroom, the master bathroom, and the master closet, being as that's where most of our victims are keeping a lot of their high-end jewelry and things like that. So they're easily accessible when they're getting ready or going out, different types like that. Usually we see them come from like a wooded area, in through a backdoor entry, glass shatter, right into the master bedroom. They're able to kind of manipulate some alarms in a few different ways with technology. And as quick as they're in, they're out. And we know from some information we have through investigations that not only are they out of your house pretty quick, they leave the state pretty quick and continue this crime ring in another state. So it's something that we're seeing nationally. It's starting to pick up some national news, and they're very common. The MO is very, very closely tied together where what we're seeing out in California compared to what we're seeing here in Michigan. We've had a lull here for, at least a month of what we've seen. It really picked up last fall, is when we got hit back to back to back. I think we had a half dozen of them. So, we're just telling people, look for those little gaps in your security system, lights on, not putting that you're going to be away on social media, at the airport, gone for 14 days, right? It's a big red flag that no one's going to be at my house for 14 days. So getting away from some of those habits and hopefully preventing a few of these.
It's funny. I mean, people are living on social media, and really, as I said earlier, it's a two-edged sword. And, it's like privacy is important, and people tend to tell too much about their personal lives, and they're really setting themselves up for problems. What about, officer, what about mail theft? I know there have been a lot of things where people are going into mailboxes and stealing letters, especially checks, and then redone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a problem in this area?
It is. And what you're referring to is what we call check washing. So mail theft is common everywhere. It's definitely picked up here in Bloomfield Township, and we see spikes and valleys in it. We'll see a lot of spikes after the first of the year. Reason being is identity theft. There's a lot of tax information coming in, right? First of the year happens. Now you're getting all your stuff to prepare your tax returns shortly after that. And they're able to piece information there. So we definitely see a spike in there. And really the two big takeaways with mail theft that we can put out there is if you see something suspicious, call us. We've caught a number of these mail thefts simply through residents calling us saying, hey, this vehicle's going mailbox to mailbox. It doesn't look familiar. It doesn't look like they're putting anything in it. And we're able to make a traffic stop and kind of piece together some of the mail that they've been stealing to put a case on. And number two is really getting out of that habit of putting things in our mailbox altogether. What we say at the police department is when you put that little red flag up that says I've got mail going out, that's a red flag to bad guys that says, hey, I've got stuff for you to steal. So we're really trying to urge our community that if you've got checks that you're sending out, any kind of money, personal information, things like that, they really should be taken directly to the post office or done through a different form of payment. Even, I hesitate to say it, but even the big blue postal mailboxes now are becoming less and less safe as we're seeing those get stolen. And these are checks that you're sending out for whatever reason it may be. They're falling into bad guys' hands, and they're able to wash these checks, reissue them to themselves, and start stealing your money, and your original payment never goes through. So definitely cautious on that. Cautious on people driving through the neighborhoods, going into mailboxes. Look out for that. If you see something suspicious, please give us a call so we can investigate that right away rather than waiting, 2-3 days or even 2-3 hours trying to locate that vehicle and gather some information. But really just being cautious on what we're sending out in the mail, right? Checks, money orders, cash shouldn't be placed in the mailbox. If it's something you don't want stolen, it really shouldn't be placed in outgoing mail.
Officer Soley, what about package theft? I mean, we see in our neighborhood, the Amazon and FedEx trucks are there every day, and I've heard that theft of packages off of front porches is becoming a bigger issue. Is that something you're seeing in the township as well?
Yeah, and again, they're cyclical. We'll see them more during the holidays when people are getting more and more packages, but it's common again everywhere. What we see in this community is what we see in neighboring communities. We're no different. And, some of the trends there are similar to the mail theft, where if you see something suspicious or someone suspicious, give us a call, because they will follow around these delivery drivers from a distance so they can get them quickly. What we recommend is, a few different things. Is one, you can get secure boxes for your porch to get those put in there. Two, requiring signatures for delivery. And three, things like Amazon that are, so convenient for us. If it's something that you're afraid of getting stolen or a high value item, maybe selecting that local pickup rather than the drop off. I don't live here in Bloomfield Township, so I can't speak for Bloomfield Township, but I know when I order things off Amazon in my hometown, I have an option of going a half mile down the road to a grocery store to pick those items up out of a locked container. So if I know something expensive and convenient, I might still order it off Amazon, but actually drive out and pick it up. Or ordering right off of Amazon themselves in one of those locked containers. And there's instructions on them that after the package is delivered, they put that lock on there by the delivery driver, and they can't be accessed until you get back home. So really just being cautious on that, and requiring signatures and all sorts of different things that are coming to your house.
Let me go back to the internet. How can seniors be better protected against scams that prevail more and more through the internet? And I know one scam that someone tried against my family. I received a call from an uncle who said that another uncle who was out of state had received a call that I was in jail and needed to be bailed out, which is basically what you had mentioned earlier. And of course, I told him that it was a scam and to ignore it. But people, react to these things. So
Absolutely.
be protected.
So what we say is we ask, slow down. Number one is slow down. There's no emergency that comes in through an email or online that is so urgent that you need to react quickly on. If it was that urgent, it wouldn't be coming through on an email. I can pretty much tell you that. But slowing down and looking for some of those red flags, right? You should never respond to any emails that you get that look suspicious or ask you for money or tell you need to complete these steps. We need to look who they're coming from. That means physically clicking on the email address that it came from. It may say Chase Bank, but when you click on it, it may say, Chase BNK at hotmail.com. Clearly not Chase Bank, right? So we need to look at those things. We, especially with our elderly, we need to put our egos aside and be able to reach out to other people to verify if what we're reading, if it makes sense to someone else. And if we don't have that trusted family member, calling the police department like, hey, I got this suspicious email. We would rather take that phone call, caution you, and prevent you from being a victim than come out and take your victim report that you were scammed out of some sort of money. Two-factor authentication to get into different websites is important. Going to log into your banking information and requiring them to send you a text message to verify that it's you is another great step you can take. But really just slowing it down and making sure that what you're looking at is real and secure. DTE, the antivirus is very common right now. Your computer's been hacked, Facebook, social media, credit cards, anything like that. They know they send out these emails to a lot of people. They don't need everyone to bite on them. They need one or two people to bite and take a lot of money. So when you have questions on something that just doesn't seem right, I don't ever get notifications from my bank via email on important issues. They call me, or I get an alert that there's a message in my secure inbox through my bank's website itself. So if you don't get messages very often from your bank, and all of a sudden you're getting a message from your bank that says there's a problem, we need you to log in, use this link to log in. What they're doing is they're trying to get you to click that link and steal your login information so they can start transferring money. So just being very cautious and vigilant in that is really a big help. And then again, if we're at a loss, calling someone trusted or sharing that information and seeing, has anyone else heard about this? Is this something that's happening? Is this a scam? Like you said, questioning everything. The validity of everything right now is, especially with the electronics and the digital era, is kind of up in the air. Is this real or is this a scam? It's hard to tell. I know I call people in my daily duties and I tell them it's Officer Nick Soley, Bloomfield Township Police Department. And they hang up on me. Call them back. Officer Nick Soley, Bloomfield Township Police Department. They hang up. Then they call 248-433-7755. Hey, someone pretending to be this officer keeps calling me from your station. Well, no, that's actually an officer. He is trying to get a hold of you. Good on them, right? They're doing the right thing. They're hanging up. They're calling the number they know, which is the non-emergency number, to verify I am who I say I am. And then I don't have bad intentions of scamming them by saying someone's in jail or they have a warrant or something like that.
Now, there was another scam with a phone where you get a call and if you said yes, then they'd capture your voice to try and use that to get into accounts. Is that something that's still prevalent?
It's not something we're seeing so often. It's a little bit harder. They need a little bit more than just that yes. But AI, I believe AI is something of the future. I think it's something we need to look ahead at and be cautious of. And I can see plenty of scams coming out of that AI technology of capturing voices and making sentences. I mean, go on the internet and search any fake speech from any of our past 5 presidents. Some of them are pretty believable. Just the way that they can manipulate the voice and lay over. There's no doubt in my mind that people are going to use that for nefarious reasons and scamming people.
Officer Soley, what are some other issues that we should be cognizant of with regard to, crimes in this area?
Well, I want to stick with the scam portion of it. And we talked very quickly on, we could talk all day on scams. We talked very quickly on the phone scams and the internet scams. And I want to touch real quick on the face-to-face scams, because they're starting to become more common, again, cyclical, as we see the weather turn and it's spring and we're finally getting consistent nice days. People like to get out and start getting their houses looking good and yard work done. And we will see some traveling criminals who come into the township who will try and take advantage of people. And what that looks like is they may come and ask, solicit to do work on your house, whether it's painting, refinishing of a driveway, seal coating, you name it, right? I want everyone to be cautious of that. We had one not too long ago, I think it was last year or the year before, where the neighbor had just had their driveway done. And this criminal was smart enough to see that the neighbor had their driveway all taped off from being redone. And this bad guy walked over and said, "Hey, I just did your neighbor's driveway. I'd love to do yours." Well, they never talked to the neighbor. This guy was just a nobody, collected a down payment and never showed up to do any work. And that's some of the stuff we see. I usually caution our residents of never pay up front. Make sure you have a contract. If you're going to look for work and people have had stuff done in their neighborhood, get trusted recommendations. Make sure that you're dealing with someone. And then if the price is too good to be true, it probably is. We see that quite often. What a job that should cost $1,000 costs $500 or $250. What's questioning the reasoning for that? Is it because it's a scam, or is it because this individual does, shoddy work, or what's the reason for that? Don't fall for the too good to be true type stuff. And then to piggyback on that are the individuals that will come when you're working outside. So if you're outside working on your yard, you might get an individual that comes and tries to distract you. And what this distraction does is it gives an opportunity for their partner to sneak into your house and actually rob you while you're being distracted outside. Being cautious of that when you're outside doing yard work this spring and into the summer, making sure that your garage doors are still locked or secured while you're in the backyard. So even if you are distracted, someone's not sneaking into your house or into your garage to steal things out of your garage. Those are all common scams that we've seen and crimes that we've seen past several years in Bloomfield Township. And then finally is just the biggest one, and I reiterate this to every group I talk to, it has nothing to do with age, is locking your car doors. Don't leave your car unlocked in your driveway. I hate to victim blame. I won't ever do it. But the number one crime that we see outside of scams is our larceny from automobiles. And many times we have video from home surveillance that shows these criminals going driveway to driveway, pulling on door handles, and anytime they find an open vehicle, they rummage through it. They'll steal anything they can, from loose change to expensive sunglasses to work computers. And in several cases, we've seen they'll try and push the start button to see if it'll start because keys are left in the vehicle. So just remembering to get into that routine. We call it the 9 p.m. routine. If it needs to be earlier or later, no big deal. But picking that time to make sure my house is locked up, I hit that lock button on my key fob, I hear it honk at me, and we're not leaving any valuables, especially firearms, in our motor vehicle overnight.
What are some things that we as residents or in general can do to become more vigilant?
Yeah, so the number one thing is we're starting here, right? It's becoming aware of what's happening and what's going on. If you go to our website at bloomfieldtwp.org and you go to the police services, there's a link in our transparency where you can see all the crime that's happening on a map around you. Getting familiar with what crimes are happening and understanding what's going on in our township is number one. And that's what we're doing here today. Okay. And then number two is protecting ourselves, following those tips, not falling into the undiscipline of, no one's probably going to go in my car tonight, I don't need to check it. And then number three is really being our eyes and ears. You can do that in multiple ways. If you see something that looks suspicious, by all means, call us out. You're never wasting our time by having a police officer come and check on a situation. I would rather come out 100 times and identify that suspicious car is just the newspaper delivery guy than miss the one time it's someone getting ready to do a home invasion or just broke into a car or something like that. So you're never wasting our time by calling us. An extra eyes program. You can go on our website and register. If you have home surveillance cameras, you go right onto our website, tell us your address. It tells us where your cameras are, what direction they face, and that helps us for solving crimes after they've occurred. We never have access to your cameras. We never want full access to your cameras. It just tells us there's a camera in this area, and if there's a crime in that area, I can come knock on Henry's door and say, hey, Henry, you filled out this extra eyes. I noticed that you had cameras. It may have picked this up. Can you review it? And that saves us just a little bit of time of going door to door to door looking for cameras. So that's out there as well to be our eyes and ears. And just keeping up with it. Like I said, these scams are going to evolve. I can't give you every example because I don't know every example, and they're going to change. But things to look out for, right? Protect yourself. Help us protect you by protecting yourselves. Things to look out at. Scare tactics that this is going to happen to you. Do this now. Other common tactics are gift cards. If someone is asking for no legitimate business, is going to ask you to make a payment in the form of gift cards. They do that because they know they're untraceable. And then finally, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Publisher clearinghouse. We still see publishing clearinghouse scams in the township. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Get a second, third opinion.
What are some of the things that the Bloomfield Township Police Department is doing regarding these important issues? I know you're providing a lot of public information, which is critical, but what are some other things that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is, one, keep up with the times. So our technology is getting better. We've recently worked with a few vendors to up our technology for the police department. We have one of our detectives is assigned full-time to the FBI, which is his portion is the identity theft and fraud task force. That's big. We have a lot of those crimes, and that task force and those cooperations with other departments and federal partners gives us a lot more resources when these things happen to, one, identify suspects, to bring them to justice, but also to see the trends that are happening, that are coming to Bloomfield, right? The federal trend might be different than Bloomfield, but that doesn't mean they're not coming here. So those partnerships are very big. And getting into the neighborhoods, right? Our patrol officers need to be present in the neighborhoods day and night, to hopefully thwart off some bad guys that see us driving through, looking for suspicious activity, looking for cars that seem out of place or are going through mailboxes or running up and taking packages. All things we're working on. It's hard some days when we have busy back-to-back calls, but when they're not running call to call or they're not on a police matter, they're expected to be in the neighborhoods. And that's where our citizens are. That's where our interests lie. And through these different techniques, we've been able to bring quite a few to justice on mail theft, for one. Scams that are local are a little less common. So what we see are bad guys that are typically out of the country, or out of the state, and that's where our federal partners come in handy, and why we lend one of our detectives over to their partners.
Wondering, it's probably important that we have burglar alarm systems, and also the ring cameras and cameras in our doors and on our porches for prevention. What are some final thoughts that you can share with us, Officer Soley, before we sign off?
Yeah, final thoughts would be, if you have that security system, if you have those cameras, check and see how old they are. If you installed them like I did 5-6 years ago, just take a look back and see if there's any gaps. Make sure that they're registered with the police department, so we know that they're out there, and really revamp anything you can revamp, right? If you got an alarm system and you only did the front of your house, go out there and get the back. If you have those cameras, this is the biggest thing. If you have those Ring cameras, please find a way to pay for the subscription for them. We see this quite often. They have the Ring cameras, they can watch them live, but there's no saved video. That doesn't necessarily help in the investigation. Keeping your lights on in the evening, making sure that your house is really upkept. All psychology of bad guys. So we want that clear sight line. Now that we're into that spring, summer, getting those bushes trimmed down to 3 feet, getting those trees trimmed up to 6 feet, and that really gives us a good sight line. So us as police officers can see, is there anyone up there hiding, and also for the neighbors. And finally, some people don't like to hear it, but my number one piece of advice is be that nosy neighbor. Be that nosy neighbor. You know the trends and the actions of your neighborhood better than we do, better than anyone else probably. And if you have any inkling that vehicle doesn't belong, or that person shouldn't be snooping around that house, give us a call. Let us come out. Let us investigate. Again, we'd rather find out 100 times that it's a contractor than miss the one time it's a bad guy. So be our eyes and ears and be that nosy neighbor.
Officer Nick Soley, this has been very important, and I really appreciate this information, and you're sharing this with us. I want to thank you for being our guest on Gracefully Graying, and I want to thank our sponsors and our viewers for watching Gracefully Graying. Thank you again, Officer Soley.
Thank you so much for having me, Henry.